welcome back to MGE Table Talk. I am T. Turner. I am happy that you decided to venture back in. I keep telling y'all I'm trying to be as regular with these podcasts as possible because this is my journalistic itch, but also I like to make sure that everybody gets something out of it, so we try to make sure that we bring in interesting people to talk to, interesting conversations. So as I always say, thank you, because you really could have been doing anything else with your time, but yet you chose to be here. So today, unless you've been living under a rock, you know that we are in the midst of primary season, and we have a very interesting person that pulled up to the table today. We have Miss Lindsay. I can't even try to do the tongue roll with
Rubia.
That's how I was.
La Rubia.
See, La Rubia.
There you go. Yeah,
La Rubia. Don't doubt my tongue skills, baby.
There you go.
Lindsay La Rubia. Garcia.
That's really good.
And she is running. She's running for the 5th district in Congress. So make sure you check your Go Vote app. Make sure you see if she's actually on your particular ballot, because we're not in a jungle primary. So historically, this state has been in jungle primaries, but we're not in jungle primaries. But I want to welcome Miss La Rubia. Garcia.
You doing that fantastic. You're gonna be speaking Spanish before we finish.
I know a few words here and there, I know some choice words.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm really glad to be here, sitting down with you and having conversations. Really, anytime somebody offers an opportunity, Lord knows I do nothing but talk. So here we go. I'm happy to be here.
Well, and I know that you're on the campaign trail, and I've worked on a few campaigns, so I do know that can just be completely grueling on a person's body, on a person's emotional state, mental. So I do appreciate you making the stop here. I saw your eyes getting big, like you have no idea how grueling it is, but it is very grueling, I know.
Yeah, I started to express some of that frustration when I first got here. I was like, man, I knew. You don't know, and I've always studied this academically and never in a practicality sense, but I'm learning a lot throughout this process. I'm learning a lot about myself. I'm learning a lot about the people who talk a lot, and as I told a girlfriend of mine recently, it seems like you want all the rhythm and none of the blues that come along. You think freedom is free and that it's actually just guaranteed and it doesn't need to be fought for. I think that's probably the frustration I was expressing before we went on today was talking about what actually goes into running a race and the surprising things that come along with it.
Yeah, okay. And so I'm pretty sure, people can Google, people can go to your website, people can go to your social media. We're not going to delve deeply into your origin story because I feel like, time is of the essence and we got some real issues to really kind of hit. And if people have been following you or if they haven't, You've been on a bit of a press run, so there have been some boxes that have already been checked, and I know you just from probably going through these different interviews, you don't want to feel like you're just saying the exact same thing over and over and over again. I mean, and you have to go to these different forums and you're meeting people and you're constantly saying the same thing. So what I want to do is delve into number one. Why do you feel like the 5th district is obtainable? Because the current one is Julia Letlow. She's holding the seat until she's completely vacated. She's actually running for Senate now, and the narrative behind a lot of districts in Louisiana is that it's a red state and just go along with that. So why do you feel like that this particular district is obtainable?
I think that we are a voter suppressed state and a voter apathetic state. There aren't enough candidates that are able to get the people out of their seat and get them motivated enough and get them inspired enough to show up. And like I said, a voter suppressed state as far as the gerrymandering. This district wasn't always 14,000 square miles rather. It wasn't always from North Louisiana and then coming down. You're talking about putting people together from Washington Parish and East and West Carroll, and even though there are very rural districts in between, one rural district isn't necessarily equivalent to the other. But I don't believe, I know historically the way that it is, but I believe personally that this district is more purple than anything. I've had several people just this week, and I mentioned it in the forum in Monroe. I had a law enforcement gentleman that sent me an email to the email, my contact Rubia email from the website. And he sent me an email and was saying, I've done, almost 3 decades in law enforcement, been Republican. And he's like, I'm about to change my party just so I can vote for you.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then I called him the very next morning because I'm like, listen, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, I've watched you. I've watched the things that you said. And, the Republican Party isn't serving me anymore. And at this point, he said, you said something in one of your interviews where if the policies that you're voting for aren't serving you, then you have to ask, who are you voting for if these policies that you're voting for are that? So I feel like that's one of the biggest reasons why this isn't, outside of the numbers, the vast majority of the country, you have 25, let's just on average, 25% is Republican, 25 is Democrat, and everyone else is really no party and independent because, like myself, I was no party before I was running.
Right.
And I genuinely believe that is indicative of what District 5 is. It really is Louisiana. Outside of being voter suppressed and voter apathetic, the vast majority of people do reside in the middle, and they're personally, just like I am, even though I'm the endorsed Louisiana Democrat, I'm not making any fans in the Louisiana, like in the National Democratic Party, because
Right.
I've already gone toe-to-toe with some of the head up in the Democratic Party because you're leaving out an entire base of people that are untouched. This district is the same way. There are a significant amount who are in the middle and don't go either way. So yeah, there are more Republicans than there are Democrats in the district, but there are also over 100,000 people that are independents and no party that haven't chosen either side, and not to mention, just like the gentleman that I spoke with, I'm like, listen, you don't have to go Democrat, just go no party. And that way, all of us have to work for your vote.
Right.
And you can choose either or and go either way, just like I was. I chose Democrat because I'm more politically aligned. And more importantly, I feel like I can reach those disenchanted Republicans, not just the gentleman, but even the forum that I had in Monroe. There was a disabled couple that represents the sample babies, people who were affected by samples that were given out in the 50s and 60s and suffer formalities and things like that. And they were trying to speak to people coming up, and then Blake Miguez shows up late, $6 million in the bank, doesn't put anything on the table, doesn't speak to constituents, and literally walks out as the people are trying to engage with him, even though he's the endorsed candidate. That right there is indicative of what we're looking at. He won't show up, he won't talk, he won't represent, and these are Republicans that are being disenchanted and pushed away from that. So I feel like I can reach those people even if we don't align on everything. I don't have to agree with you to hear you out, and I promise to be fair, firm, and consistent. And I think that is something that speaks to people in this district regardless of their political affiliation.
Now, you mentioned voter apathy, and a lot of that comes from years, I believe, of people kind of witnessing people get elected, they go to D.C., and then they're just, they just kind of throw their hands up and, they kind of forget what got them there. We often hear the stories about people going to D.C. and they go there with one net worth, and then when they get there, their net worth skyrockets. Mm-hmm. What do you say to people who, because again, I feel like that is one of the main issues behind a lot of voter apathy. I mean, there's a long list, but I do feel like people do look at that and say, well, the salary of a United States Congressperson is this. Why are they worth a couple of million right now? Like how did that happen? How are they getting all these book deals? How are they, why are they allowed to trade stocks? And they sit on these committees, and you can't unsee information. Mm-hmm. And even if you as a congressperson are not directly trading on stocks that you have information about, but you can also tell someone, mm-hmm. and then they can do it. So what do you say about things, like that?
Well, that's another thing. Even Nancy Pelosi is a good example of a Democrat that started out one way and then by the time she's now retiring, she's now made money. But that's on all sides of
Yeah,
the
it happens on both sides. I mean, you know, Pelosi is a very prominent Democrat, but I mean, look at Mitch Landrieu.
I was just about to say,
You know, he's been there for years, decades, and he's worth, you know, I don't know how many millions of dollars. You know, if you look at, I mean, even locally, I mean, you have Cleo Fields. You know, they just had a story about him earlier this year about, you know, not reporting certain trades that he made. And, you know, there's a long list of Republicans on, so it literally happens on both sides. But what do you say to people who look at that and they're like, you know, it's kind of, you know, the game is kind of rigged.
it's a very relatable sentiment. For myself personally, I can't stand that we're at that point, that people are disenchanted by that. That's sadly a part of the game, and I feel like it's gotten that way because we suffer from electoral insanity. Like, we elect these same people who show us who they are and we don't believe them. So we continue to elect them despite the fact that they show us that they're no different than the next.
Right.
And it's either just because of the name, or they're like, well, so-and-so did it, so why can't the other side do it? And
Right.
It goes back and forth. I can only speak for myself. And I didn't stay teaching after, going viral, and, work 5 jobs after going viral. And I'm working Uber. It's funny because even when I was working Uber, somebody jumped in my car and was like, you sound like that teacher lady from the internet. And I'm like, actually, yeah. And they're like, why are you here? And I'm like, because I don't make money off of social media like that. Like, I could be doing interviews. I could be doing all that. But at the time, I was teaching. I had a full-time teaching job. I was bartending at 2 different places. I was teaching dance. I was Uber driving because I was a single mother of 2 kids. I'm not money motivated like that.
Right.
I'm not intrinsically, and more importantly, you can't put a price tag on my peace of mind and the people that I feel. It's one of the reasons that I felt like I had to run, because there is a distrust. And what you see from somebody like me is a decade plus of me being fair, firm, and consistent. And I also feel there's just a lack of understanding and education of how this game goes. Or more importantly, now there's so much information, so much readily available information, that it's a flooding of the zone that is so hard to grasp on just one thing. But we have definitely pushed that it's profitable to run for office, or that it's just something that goes along with it. But this also comes in with just the amount of money that goes into elections itself, with Citizens United and corporations being considered people, and the amount of money that goes into just taking to run for office. But these are difference between campaign finances and your personal finances.
Right,
you shouldn't be able to get into office, which is why I support insider, like the preventions of having people in office and their family being able to benefit off of their positions. But we're also at a point where, last time I checked, they get like $45,000 for furniture whenever you get elected into office. You get a stipend in order so that your room and all that type of stuff. But meanwhile, I worked as a teacher for 10 years and I never hit $50,000 a year after 10 years of teaching in the classroom.
Yeah.
But we're being pushed towards benefiting the Epstein class, benefiting the people who are making money. I mean, Donald Trump was a reality star and had no experience in politics, and yet him and his family have made billions on crypto just since he's been elected into office.
Absolutely.
And I think that's part of the issue. But that's why I think that me going and running for District 5, you don't need to be super educated. You don't need to, have an Ivy League or a college education to recognize that you're being messed over, and that you should be, we have people that are making bare minimum, and our livable wage doesn't even cover it. Meanwhile, you're running to go to office and you forget where you come from or the people that you represent and the constituency that's literally living penny to post, and meanwhile is working but still live above the Alice threshold, where you're literally working and you don't make enough. You make too much to qualify for services, but you still don't make enough in order to pay for food and for health care and just the everyday average expenses. So it's disheartening, not just
Yeah.
as a candidate, but also as a constituent and somebody who just lives here and watches them go to office and make money off of being in office.
Now, and that kind of raises a certain point I want to make, because you mentioned earlier, of course, you are the endorsed candidate by the state party. And those who have followed you, if if you're new to the Rubia, Garcia realm, we'll say, you have a very long history of, just advocacy work. You are not the standard candidate that a party would endorse. For me, I look at that and I say maybe there is a shift there, because you are very unorthodox. You don't feel, you don't sound like the establishment candidate, but yet you're the endorsed candidate. Does that kind of give you that energy to really move ahead with your campaign, like even more, like, where you're already in the race, but does that kind of give you like almost like a second win, like, I'm the endorsed candidate, but I don't feel like the establishment candidate?
I said it at the DSCC meeting. Like my speech, whenever and there's a disconnect because people don't even understand this process. Even I didn't fully understand it because I only studied it academically from the outside and not practically. But whenever you qualify, there are the DPEC members that represent across the state, and then they all come together and you have an opportunity, all the candidates have an opportunity to speak before the entire body. And then from there, they vote on who it is that they want. And there were over 100 people that were present at that meeting. And I want to say 12 or 13 didn't vote because they didn't feel like the process was fair enough. It felt like you don't do that before the primary, because it almost gives the feeling like the Louisiana Democratic Party itself is kind of putting a thumb on the scale about who it is that they want to go. But as a candidate, like, am I not going to participate in it?
Right.
So I felt like I had no other choice. So I went in and I participated, and of the about 100 that voted, I got 81 of the votes. And that shocked me, to be honest. I was not expecting it. It was a pleasant surprise. It gave me the confidence to stand in the type of person that I am, but more importantly, I would like to believe there were many. I thought that people might have recognized me from social media, and they were like, all right, now we're gonna go. She's here, she's chosen the Democratic Party, let's support her. But I was actually shocked to find out that so many people had never heard of me before.
Right.
Like, they'd never seen me, never heard my voice, never recognized, had no experience.
But yet you still got.
I still got them. So that right there gave me confidence. And they're like, and I'll say this. I said that what I said that day. I said, if you're standing on the right side of history, truth, justice, righteousness, you got all that on your side. All you need to do is stand 10 toes down on it. And I believe that. And I think that type of language, when you are witnessing the tax breaks going to the rich while the middle class is suffering and being diluted, when you are looking at ICE getting their budget of billions of dollars, yet we're still living penny to post, and you're cutting access to Medicaid at the same time, and you're taking money away from these social programs to give it to the rich or to give it to ICE, and you're watching all of these things go on, you're seeing an administration that's like, I'd have nothing to do with Project 2025, and yet here we are, 50%.
A lot of things, yeah.
Exactly, and you're listening and you're watching. It's like no new wars, except you change the Department of Defense to the Department of War, and we've now kidnapped one leader while we literally assassinated not just the other leader of Iran, but also members of his entire family.
Yeah, a whole council.
Yeah, his daughter, but even innocent people who had nothing to do with it, like his daughter-in-law, the grandson. And,
schools.
And, yes, the innocent children who are sitting there. And it's like you're watching. I myself am running as an unorthodox candidate because I believe I speak to a particular set of the base that is like, what are you doing still drafting strongly worded letters?
Right.
At this point, why are you trying to reform when what we're talking about and what is needed right now is revolution? And when I said I went toe to toe to like the DNC chair himself, Ken Martin, when the DNC came down in New Orleans, he was asking me for my pitch, my 30-second pitch. And I'm like, I'm talking to you not as a candidate right now, but as a constituent. I can sit here and talk about how I want to increase livable wages. I can talk about education and reform. I can sit here and talk about health care and things like that. But I'm asking you how. Because again, some of us have not only have degrees in this, but taught this for 10 years, but watch Schoolhouse Rock, where we know how a bill becomes a law.
We remember the song.
And how are we going to accomplish that if you're not wanting to address that orange elephant in the room, once again, because how are we going to get it? We have to get it past the House, get it through the Senate, and then across the president's desk. So if we want to stop the ending of the ACA subsidies going into effect, which coincidentally are going to happen when the Democrats, I believe, are going to regain control, how are we going to pass any of that legislation if the president is still sitting there? So if it's not impeach, convict, remove, imprison, repeat, I don't know what we're talking about. And he's just like, oh, let's get through November. Beloved, I drove 30,000 miles around this country. I got the chemical burns on my throat from the actions of National Guard and police around the country. I have fractured ribs from them firing upon innocent, peaceful protesters. I did not do all of that to just get Biden to November, only for us January to watch them shimmy up drain pipes, build a gallows on the front lawn, only for you to not pass the George Floyd Police Reform Act or not pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, which would have prevented a lot of the things that we're witnessing right now.
Right.
I gave you that benefit of the doubt. Democrats went and showed up for you, and then you were trying to return us to a normal that no longer existed post January 6th. The moment that they built that gallows on the front lawn and shimmied up drain pipes to break into the Capitol on national television should have been
live on national television.
Live on, and got their own girl shot in the rotunda, mind you. But yet the BLM folks are all violent, except in the thousands of miles that I traveled. Never, not once did I see when they were painting Black Lives Matter Plaza in yellow in Washington D.C. Never, not once did I see any one of us shimmy up a drain pipe because they had snipers on the roof for us.
Oh yeah.
I feel like it has changed, and there is the base of the Democrats. His response is, let's get to November, and I don't know if you've been paying attention. He said, well, we've been winning across the states. We won where Mar-a-Lago is.
Yeah,
we flipped
in Florida, that district.
And I told him, I said, I think you're confusing desperation with success. Because what other option in this not supposed to be a two-party system, but currently exists as a two-party system, are they supposed to vote for? But if you feel like you're so successful, then why are you polling lower than Trump?
Right.
Why are you not pulling in money? Because even during the State of the Union, your leadership in Congress is telling everybody to either, if you're going to be disruptive, don't show up. Because you're still drafting strongly worded letters instead of actually fighting.
They have to get a little creative. My question is, aside from, because there's clearly a disconnect between party leadership, those who are elected, and I know money has a lot to do with it as well too, but what other causes are there to cause this much of a disconnect between their constituents and themselves? I mean, it just seems kind of unnatural to have that much of a disconnect to where, and again, look, I know a big part of it is money, but it just seems like is it just the addiction of power, influence? There's clearly a disconnect. I'm trying to figure out what's one of the root causes of this deep disconnect to where they can't read the room, to where, yes, you have won a district here and there where you potentially were supposed to not win it, and they're taking that as a measurement as to, yep, we got it from here.
I think that the Democrats ran on the fear of Trump alone. I think that they, when Biden won, that they had control of the House and the Senate, and they tried to, like I said, return us to a sense of normalcy that no longer existed. And they were like, okay, we're going to do this the right way. We're going to take our time. We're going to go and bring in Merrick Garland, and then Merrick Garland's going to get a special counsel, Jack Smith, and bring them in. And it took them 4 years to do absolutely nothing. And I feel like part of that was a controlled chaos type of thing, where you wanted to kind of drag it out, because no way are the American people going to sit there and reelect Donald Trump after all that. Yeah, well, you didn't just. Not only did you give the Republican base, the Republicans in charge rather more, because if they had it, then they would have arrested him and charged him and did all of that. Not only did you give them that, but you also discouraged the Democrats like myself. You disenchanted Democrats like myself who went out and took to the streets by the millions and billions worldwide on that hope and on that expectation that you were going to get there and actually do something about it. And just like the irony of being at the DNC and having the Ken Martins of the establishment and corporate Democrats being like, oh, well, we're having all of these successes and all that, and what are you going to charge him with? Again, beloved, you have Letitia James on the stage right now, which is a black woman and the Attorney General of New York, and he brought mortgage fraud charges against her off of nothing.
And how did they allow the Georgia charge to just evaporate? I feel like Fannie Willis
they went after Fannie Willis and they attacked her. That's the problem with the Democrats, if you ask me, is they don't have enough balls for me.
Yeah, because
that's why I'm here.
I feel like she had an ironclad case. He's recorded saying, "Find me."
11,780.
Just find me
one
the
more
votes.
than the one that I had. Absolutely.
Not legitimately, just, and then he goes on to say, "Listen, just say there's doubt. I'll take care of the rest." Like that is a conspiracy. And it's on audio. Everyone heard it. Fannie Willis had an ironclad case. How did they make this a conflict of interest? Because the guy that was working on her same team, they had a relationship. It's not like she was sleeping with the guy that was on Trump's team. That would be a conflict of interest. So my mind is still boggled about that, because a state charge could have helped neutralize him a little bit. And that got taken away.
You also had the support of Republicans like Ben Raffensperger, who was on that phone call, was like, I'm not about to do that. But that's what I mean by I don't know how else to explain it besides controlled chaos. That you ran on the hope of the fear of Donald Trump, and that they would see all of that and that they wouldn't vote for that again. As if like Jefferson Davis would have been allowed after the Civil War. You mean to tell me people on both sides? You don't think that Jefferson Davis would have been popular to a family even in the North that had lost their son in order for the Civil War? You don't think that had he run, he would have won not just the South, but also those disenchanted Northerners? I believe so. I think that you're running on the hope of the fear of people to not do that, in which you actually created was a discontentment, and you disengage the voters like myself.
Right.
Like I'm running because of that. You have history, you have the truth, you have the facts, you have all of this stuff on your side, and yet you're still trying to play chess with pigeons. These are pigeons who are knocking over the pieces, gonna shit on the board, and then still strut around like they won every single time.
So do you
That's
think
where I think that we are.
So what you're saying is it's their issue is that they continue to underestimate, and they're overestimating their rational influence, and they're underestimating the irrational mentality among a base.
I think that the biggest disconnect and if you go read the comments on, I hope Ken Martin saw that video that went viral from the Louisiana legislature and how I handled up on the Republicans in control behind the issue of Calvin Duncan. And if you go read the comments, because the video went viral on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and if you go read the comments, all the comments are generally saying pretty much something around the effect of, that's the type of fight we need. That's the type of energy we need. Because I genuinely believe that if you are standing on the right side of history, then you need to defend it. I think what ultimately the establishment Democrats have is just like, okay, well, let's just talk about the issues because people want to talk about the issues. Yes, I want to talk about the issues too, but I also want to talk about the how to accomplish and how to get this done. Because otherwise, again, it just sounds like controlled chaos. People want to pay bills. People want to be able to have health care, and they don't want to be one healthcare crisis away from, financial ruin and collapse. But if you're not willing to fight for it, how is it that you're going to accomplish that? I personally just feel like the establishment Democrats are still on this, and there's no better way to say it, this strongly worded letter. And there's so much on gatekeeping that power that you're alienating an entire base who is pissed. And they want to be galvanized. They want to feel like they're being fought for. Meanwhile, the MAGA Republicans lie all the damn time. And you have the truth on your side. And I also think that the establishment Democrats thinks that this like nonviolent, even the civil rights movement was based on nonviolent civil disobedience. But was that movement? Would you say that movement was nonviolent?
No, there was plenty of violence there.
Exactly, but I think that they equate nonviolence and peaceful. Like,
right.
If you are incapable of great violence, then you're not peaceful. You're harmless, because there hasn't been a social justice movement. There haven't been a war that came without violence somewhere in it. So when I look back on the civil rights movement, and I'm thinking about Dr. King and these sit-ins, yes, they were nonviolent. He says it in his letter from Birmingham jail. Collection of evidence to determine whether or not an injustice exists. You try to negotiate. You self-purify. Are you willing to take blows? Are you willing to be called out? Are you willing to go to jail? Are you willing to die? And then only after you've self-purified do you directly act. And I believe that we've just gotten to this. When you self-purify, you know you must be capable of great violence.
Right. Not
that you're going to inflict it, but that you must endure, because there was no other way to expose Selma for what it was without being able to be nonviolent, but expose the violence for what it is.
Right. It was an embarrassing moment for the country because and Dr. King knew that. He knew that. He knew the tactic of using the press to his advantage. While the country is going across the globe promoting, democracy, promoting for the downtrodden in these other countries to rise up and this, that, and the third. But then meanwhile, your own citizens are living, very poorly, being treated very poorly.
Right.
So that was, and I always tell people that, because now, you'll see a lot of organizations and they'll promote, just doing a peaceful march. And I'm like, but there's another component to that. It's not just about marching. And I feel like some organizations have adopted this as being just the symbolic gesture. But what happens the next day? So, like you said, it has to be a sustained effort. There are other components to just going out there on your lunch break and then, okay, everybody pack up. Let's go back home. Like you just said, you said earlier, you've traveled 30,000 miles around doing these different activities, but there's another component attached to it. You're not just going downtown and say, okay, back home, and I watch the news and see if they report on it, and all right, back on social media. No, you continued on. There's always a follow-up. So I do think that we have to get out of the business of just the cosmetic gestures, or as you so eloquently put it, the strongly worded letter mentality.
I think, honestly, and going back to the original question, I think that's what spoke to people. I say what I mean, and I mean what I say, and I follow it up, and I don't care who's in the room. I don't care who it is. If I believe that I'm standing on the right side of history and I'm right, unless you're coming to me with some facts in order to refute it, I don't give a damn what you feel about it. Like, we're going far beyond that. And if I need to stand 10 toes down, I think I've also demonstrated I will sit outside of a building for 311 days if I feel like I'm standing on the right side of history, and I will stand 10 toes down, 2 eyes forward, alone if need be. And I feel like it was invigorating for me to remain authentically myself, because I wanted to make myself available to people who are outside of that, because I know that sometimes I can be aggressive.
Right.
Over the years, especially after the Hard Rock collapse, I became far more vulgar, but that was because I was tone policing myself, because I was still in the classroom. Once you showed me you no longer gave a damn, then it's like, all right, fine. I was tone policing myself in order to try to fit into this mold, but at the end, it's like, why am I going to sit here? Because you don't care. You don't have to be saying the words fuck you in order to be fucking me.
Right.
And that's where my family comes into play, and my upbringing, because my father was an attorney. My mom was more of the housewife that ran everything. But my brothers lived on the opposite side of the law. So me seeing the justice system on both sides, it's kind of like I'm the intellect of my father, the grace of my mother, but I'm also the savagery of my 8 older brothers that I didn't really have another choice. You know what I mean?
So you've definitely how can I put it? You are the anomaly, I believe, because you, like you said, you've
Consider
seen.
myself fortunate, to be honest.
It is a very good anomaly, but you've seen both sides, and you know how to operate, as far as understanding both sides. Not that you're justifying, wrongdoing or anything, but you understand, and that means if you have a better understanding, you have a better way of communication. Mm-hmm. If you have a better way of communication, then you have a better way of rehabilitating those who may be on the other side.
Mm-hmm. I think it's an empathy thing. I'm a very empathetic person. Like I don't need to. There are certain things that I'm never going to be able to sympathize with. I'm never going to know, for instance, what it's like to be a black man or a black woman. I'm never going to be able to see that and feel that. The closest I can get is empathy, and that comes from a lot of my understanding and my experiences and seeing that the consequences, for instance, that my brothers faced weren't the same things that, for instance, Hayes Williams faced. And this is somebody 30 years in Angola for a murder he had no connection with, whereas seeing certain instances where my brothers or even myself, the privilege that I'm not perfect. I have made so many mistakes, but how come I'm not getting pulled over?
Right.
How come I don't have the same record? How come I was nolle prosequi whenever I went inside that building? You know what I mean?
Right.
Nothing came that moment that I went viral the first time. That was when it really sunk into me, the privilege that was taught to me by Hayes and the conversations. And that's really why I stayed online and kept talking online, because I was really embarrassed. I was really embarrassed by the lessons I had learned from Hayes. I was really embarrassed to graduate and to spend that 4-mile radius, my life in that 4-mile radius, and then go into Edna Carr and graduating with all my friends and knowing that my friends and the world that I lived in, and I should have known better. I should have understood what my kids were telling me when they were saying that the cops who killed Tamir Rice weren't going to get prosecuted. I'm like, of course they are. Like, we all saw them on camera. We saw what happened. And they're like, okay, Miss G, we going to find out. And then that's exactly what happened. You know what I mean? So I think that the closest thing I got is empathy. That's the biggest thing. But I've grown that being the endorsed candidate and getting that. I used to believe that the biggest thing coming into this was there are millions of minutes of me on the internet doing God knows what at this point in time, because I don't edit and I don't screen anything. So, I mean, I've had wardrobe malfunctions while I'm performing Latin dancing. There's obviously the cursing and things like that and carrying on. I can see how the Republicans and going into the general, mark my words, we're on camera right now. It's going to be lunatic, leftist, liberal Lindsay. It's going to be, they're going to find some video of me screaming, hooping and hollering, and really just being passionate and using it against us. Is this who you want? Never realizing that I'm feeling that way because not just out of passion for myself, but passion for the people that I'm representing or the people that I'm speaking for.
So, and bringing all that up, and it's good that, number one, just the conversation that we've had, off camera, you own everything about yourself. So
believe it all.
You're almost doing the 8 Mile.
Oh yeah, Eminem. Yeah.
I'm gonna say everything about me, so that way you have zero power over it because you've already owned everything.
Everything. I'm terrible with money. I'm a single mother of 2 kids. I've done things, said things, but at the end of the day, just go ahead. Because I know. The people who are, and I think that this is going viral on social, being like this for over 10 years, I've had the death threats. I've had the people show up in my house. I've had to move. I've had to lose jobs. And I've gone through so much at this point. It's like, go ahead and tell these people something they don't already know about me. But more importantly, you don't care.
Right.
You don't care if I've had abortions. You don't care if I've been sexually promiscuous. Not when you elected a 34-time convicted felon who got that because he tried to cover up the fact that he paid for a porn star to slap him with a magazine because he was cheating on his wife, who was pregnant at the time with Barron Trump. You don't care. Not when we're sex trafficking children, and you're not about to sit here in my face and play with me like that. Like, you're not about to play with me or anybody else behind here.
They've clearly lost the moral ground. They continue to lie that they actually still have it, which, you know, is funny. And I was going to bring this point up too. Do Democrats have a bit of a marketing problem as well? Because
they have a purity test problem. That's why I was shocked that I got the nomination or the endorsement.
Well, no, when I bring up the marketing issue, yes, they and not to slide over that, there is a purity problem where they have a base of people where it's like, if you don't line up 10 out of 10 with this, then you are a horrible person, and we cannot, we cannot support you. But then even on the other side, you have the middle of the road people. You have the no party people, and many of them will lean toward the Republican Party because of a marketing issue, I feel. Do you feel like the Democratic Party may be, and not to say, and I hate to even use the term too much of a big tent, but if we're America, then and you're in this country, then everybody's kind of under the same tent. But the Republicans go after a certain sector. Do you feel like because Democrats are trying to represent the ideals of what the country is supposed to look like, where everyone is kind of accepted, they have a taller task at hand? Because now you can't offend this sector, or you can't feel like you have to leave out this section of people, because if you leave out this section of people, then the rest of the party doesn't support you. Meanwhile, all they have to do is appeal to one or two sections. Do you feel like that's, so when I bring up a marketing problem, how do you market such a wide variety of people?
I think that the Democrats just need to find candidates who are authentically themselves and have a track record of being authentic.
So everybody needs to do the 8 Mile.
Yeah. Because they don't care. And that's what I mean by the purity stuff. Like, I feel like I was a little bit shocked by the endorsement because I'm expecting to disappoint people. I'm expecting them to drag up things that I would much rather my children or much rather other people not know about me. But I also don't care anymore. I also have you've shown me that you don't care. And I've gotten to a point, like my brothers used to say, you don't never push loyal people to the point where they no longer give a fuck. Because once you do that, it's all on. And I've now hit that. I'm not finished. I'm done. Like Birdman said, like, are you finished or you done?
Finished or you done?
I'm done. Like, I'm done. Because what else is there to lose at this point? Like, I feel like, and I don't think that the country, and reading the comments and things like that of the Louisiana legislature and the video, and the endorsement, it's reestablished myself, who I was like, how am I going to run for office? And I have all these things in my background. I have all this history of things and things like that aren't all that great. And I don't even need the help of my brothers and my family. You know what I mean? I've done plenty of stuff all on my own. And then more importantly, I'm like, they're going to bring up my brothers. I'm like, first of all, I've dealt with them for 40 years. So if anybody's going to give my brothers and my sister anything, I promise you it's going to be me first and foremost. But I feel like there is a marketing issue. I feel like it is a purity issue. I feel like you're trying to put yourselves on this moral high ground as if we didn't watch a whole year as bodies being buried in Gaza being paid for by American-backed dollars and our tax dollars. I feel like we've now watched 2 Americans get gunned down in broad daylight by ICE agents, and you're still, what are we doing? Yeah. I don't believe in... I'm no longer, and I told this to one of the people on my team, like, I'm not about to sit here and water myself down anymore. They can choke. That's exactly, and I feel like that's part of the issue, because the candidates, I'll say this, if the Republicans wanted perfect candidates, they wouldn't be voting for the type of people that they're voting for.
Right.
They don't want perfect. They want to find somebody who is authentic, or somebody who they feel they can believe in that will fight for them. And I believe that Donald Trump was great at marketing that. He was great at marketing. He's great at selling Bibles and straws and throwing his name on things and putting himself out there. I feel like they've also come to the realization that he's not serving them now. And I feel, going back to the first question, they now realize that they've gotten got.
Yeah.
Their farms are feeling it. They're feeling it when they're putting $5 in diesel in their trucks, and they're finding it out when they're filling up their F-150s, or they're losing access to their homes, or their land is being sequestered for carbon capture, and their water is being depleted for data centers, and et cetera, et cetera. And that's both federal and the state level. I feel like they're realizing this is not for us. Meanwhile, he's throwing down and tearing down the White House, ballroom, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
You're finding billions of dollars for your planes and all that. And more importantly, the people out here in District 5, these are hardworking people. As I drove up to Monroe the other day, what it must take to work these farms. And I always thought that, which is why I took my kids from, when I taught in Orleans Parish, I would take my kids every single year to the Washington Parish State Fair. And we would have conversations about these rural lands and what it would take, what an average day would take, what time you would have to wake up in the morning, what time you would, and nobody's making, you have to do that in order to survive, but it's
Right.
giving them a outside perspective, but what it takes to actually do this work and to feel like, I don't want bailouts. I don't want you to give me bailouts because I'm going bankrupt because you've cut the Doge cuts have cut the USAID, which we use for the rice and soybeans. I used to sell in order to go over to these other countries and make money and whatnot. I think personally, they realized that it's not serving them, and they didn't want a bailout. They want to work for their money, and they're not getting that, and these policies are no longer serving them.
I believe that, number one, I'm very much enjoying the real time that I'm seeing, because, and I'm just gonna kind of put that out there. I feel like for all my comic book lovers out there, this could be a flashpoint moment. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is, a candidate like you, if you are successful, that could be a shift in the whole landscape, because as you said, you are authentically yourself. You're going to continue being that, meaning that once success is found with that, others will now have to follow. That first domino has to now fall. So it's interesting watching this in real time, because again, if there's success for you in November, that's a certain political shift.
I can't wait.
Because
I'm gonna smile so hard at Ken Martin.
Well, we're definitely in interesting times. Recently, I mean, there have been shootings in our area as well too, and I'm kind of bringing it to a different political sphere. Mm-hmm. Our governor had a very fiery public speech about throwing people in Angola if he had the need for. He mentioned hugs for thugs, all these policies. Now he was the attorney general for 8 years. He's been the governor for 3. 2 years ago, he had a special session to try to make sure that that everybody had a gun. They didn't need a permit. And I am a gun owner, so I'm not one of these people like, oh, just get rid of all guns. I'm a gun owner too. You come to my house, I don't know anything but headshots. I don't know nothing else but that. If you break in my house, all I know how to do is aim for your head.
Bang, I get it.
That's just it. Raised by a Marine, taught how to shoot. So, and I was taught, don't pull it out unless you plan on killing the person.
Yep.
So I get that. But it was amazing hearing how he responded and how he was saying, they have these policies and we're calling, and in no way am I justifying the shooting that happened at the mall. It was a travesty. But I don't believe in painting everyone with the same brush. And what I feel like he's doing, because I'm reading comments in the news sections and everything, and I'm seeing people applauding him. And I'm old enough to remember the crack era where those same people applauding them came back and said, man, how did we end up with all these harsh sentences for this, that, and the third? And all it takes is one incident to start giving away your freedom. People forget, we didn't have Homeland Security before 9/11.
Right.
and Homeland Security is over what? ICE.
Okay. ICE is under DHS.
So
and now they have a bigger budget than the FBI, CIA, the entire Bureau of Prisons, and every other.
So people forget that fear is used to institute new things that have a lot of overreach and control. And I'm reading the comments, I'm like, man, these people, like, that wasn't that long ago where they had the crack era, and the same people that were advocating, we need harsher sentences, more jail. But then you do the research and you say, well, longer jail sentences don't really curb crime.
Never in the history of ever has someone been like, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and pull this trigger. And at the time, they're sitting here like, you know what? Yeah, I'm not worried. They're not thinking about going to jail because they're not thinking about getting caught at the time they were doing it. If they were, they wouldn't be doing it.
Well, also, too, you have instances where you are creating harder criminals at this point, because if you put them in jail for long sentences at a young age, by the time they get out, and you don't have any real rehabilitation programs in there, meaning that when they get out, all they know how to do is what they learned in jail. And they're going to learn more criminal activity in jail from older inmates. They're going to say, hey, when you get out, do it this way. You won't get caught next time. You've hardened them because, people go to
survive in that environment.
Well, when people go to jail, your humanity is stripped. It's not rehabilitating people how they have it set up now. So we're breeding this. It is literally a cycle. So I'm watching that and I'm like, that's interesting that he took that stance. Not interesting for him, but interesting that the response that has been coming out about that. But it's something I feel that it's echoed. He's an avatar for not just people in Louisiana, but there's sectors of people just that subscribe to that all over the country. And these are the MAGA people that we talk about. These are the people who shimmy up, the Capitol. Yeah. Even if you remember in Trump's first term, what did he say? We have all the tough people. We have the bikers and this, that, and the third. So I bring that up because even though these people are starting to kind of see that they've kind of been conned a little bit, but they're still holding on to a lot of those ideals. How do we counter that moving forward?
I would say,
because is there reform for that?
Well, again, if you and I always
and I know that's kind of a heavy question.
No, I always circle back to all of this. The biggest deterrent if you have a problem, then you need to address what the problem is and then viable solutions to the problem. And the vast majority of crime stems back to poverty. Well, what causes poverty? Lack of access to resources, home ownership, and education, and et cetera, et cetera. These are the biggest deterrents, but more importantly, and I always go back to this quote from Utopia by Sir Thomas More. And he says, if you suffer your people to be ill-educated and their manners are corrupted from infancy, and then you punish them for having acted upon that which their education first disposed of them, what is to be concluded that you first created the criminals only to punish them? If you don't want to address the things that lead people to crime, and it almost seems like you created the criminals only to punish them, because at the end of the day, that also ties into bodily autonomy for women, because they clearly don't care about, they're not pro-life, they're pro-birth, because the bodily, the anatomy of my female oppression is that I produce the workers, I produce the soldiers, and I produce the prisoners.
Well, it's always funny when that comes up too, because I say, number one, I can't have a baby, so that ain't. I don't have the right to start governing how someone operates too. And this is a very interesting point that I've made with a couple of different people. What do these same people do when they jack off?
But beyond
those are life forms, correct?
Right.
So they don't care about that, and no one's coming to govern men for masturbating.
I've had
Are they not?
conversations with my brothers. I've had conversations with various men in my life, and asked how they would feel if I proposed mandatory vasectomies. I mean, they're 100% reversible whenever you decide. But more importantly, as a woman, I only have 30 to 35 years of producing from the time I'm in my teens until 40s going into 50s.
We could be 90
Exactly.
and still.
From the womb to the tomb, you could. Genghis Khan had thousands of children. There is a significant population of the world who can trace their lineage back to Genghis Khan because of his ability to procreate. But we don't see, it's not about, and it does tie into this narrative of the shooting and things like that, because it's very much, you could go, for those who want to, they could go watch the forum in Monroe. And the question of the shooting and that was brought up. And the vast majority, I think every single one of them on the stage, if I'm not mistaken, said it was due to absent fathers.
No.
I promise you, go watch it. I got so infuriated at their responses that I had to get up and walk around, because last I checked, the Columbine shooters had present in a nuclear family.
Yeah.
The Charlie Kirk shooter had a nuclear family. Matter of fact, the dude who even shot President Trump in Butler had a nuclear family. So it's not absent fathers, right? It's very much a mental health issue. It's very much an access to gun issue. It's very much these other things that aren't necessarily the topic, but it's a dog whistle for what it is that you're trying to say.
Yeah.
That you read the room and it's like, okay, I couldn't wait. I was like, literally, I can't wait to get on a debate stage with some of these folks, whoever it is that the primary results in, and my making it past the primary. I cannot wait to be on a debate stage in order to address those very same issues, because I want to be able to just say it with your chest. I would respect you more if you would just say it with your chest instead of hiding behind the dog whistles, because y'all been bullhorning this stuff for a while. Like,
yeah, it's really a throwback to the Ronald Reagan era when he, said big bucks and
who, by the way, when they were asked who their
queens
favorite historical character, at least 2 or 3 of them said Ronald Reagan.
Wow. Interesting.
Who they looked up to. One said Ulysses Grant, like 2 or 3. I promise.
That's a major throwback. Ulysses Grant.
Yes, Grant. I will. Then a bunch of Reagans, like 2 Teddy Roosevelts. I promise. This is where we were, and I'm sitting here like, I would have ate that question up, because I love me some Frederick Douglass, and I could sit here and go down all his quotes, the whole nine of it all, because the questions were even different. The ones that presented to Democrats versus the ones that were presented to the Republicans that were there. And I don't know or believe that it was intentional. It was just noticeable, because we weren't asked about guns. We weren't asked about certain things that the Republican.
Which kind of goes back to the whole branding thing. Mm-hmm. Because why are these same questions not asked to you? Like
on both sides.
I said, I'm a gun owner.
Mm-hmm. I would have loved to address the question about gun ownership and things like that, but at the end of the day, I'm like the vast majority of Americans who want responsible gun ownership.
Correct.
That want the background checks, that want to be able to have the Miguez is sitting here talking about I'm pro Second Amendment and talking against the shooting and all that happened, except your bill and legislation that you sponsor and put up and get signed is a direct correlation to these very same issues that happened, because the shooter in Shreveport, from my understanding, had an incident back in 2019 that would have prevented
should have been flagged.
That would have popped up on a background check, but you don't want background checks because you're all about the Second Amendment. Okay, well, you can be all about the Second Amendment and still not wanting people with a documented history of violence, particularly around schools, to have access to guns to be able to do these types of things. But then it goes down to, again, absent fathers. That was his direct response. For that was absent fathers in the home.
We do know that is a dog whistle for a narrative that has dwindled over decades, because there are also a lot of studies that show that black men are very present with their progeny.
Which his father was present. So it doesn't even...
Yeah.
That we're talking about a veteran. We're talking about a veteran that was suffering from mental health episodes and issues, while at the same time we're talking about an administration that cut the suicide hotline for veterans, despite the fact that like 17 veterans commit suicide every single day. Yeah. So it's talking out both sides of your mouth for me that kind of drives me crazy, and really it grinds my gears, and I'm like, I just want to get past this primary, and I want to get on the debate stage, and I show up. I just hope you show up, because they have a habit of being like, I'm not gonna show up. Like I talked about the table. You have the most money of any other candidate. Matter of fact, you could take all of our money on every single other candidate that's running in District 5, and you still wouldn't have the amount of money that Blake Miguez has run. Yet you show up late. You don't set up a table. You don't interact with the constituents. You get on the stage. You say the things you want to say. You ignore the constituents as they try to stop you, despite the fact they've been waiting for you all night on your way out, and you walk clear past them and don't do it. But yet you're the endorsed candidate, so you feel like you're so secure, you're good. You don't owe people anything. You don't owe anybody. I hope you show up to a debate. I hope that you win, and I hope that it's me and you that are sitting up there on that stage, because I don't throw shade. I shed light on stupidity. So I hope that you're there and present and accounted for. And I believe that that's the type of energy that we need. That's the type of not just Republicans, but independents, and also the disenchanted Republicans that are feeling like something's not lined. I can't quite put my finger on what it is and make it make sense, but something's not right, and she's showing up to talk to me and listen to me and hear me out. And that same couple that stood there was like, can I have a yard sign? I'm thinking about switching parties myself. Same thing. Go no party. Make us earn your vote, because I was no party until I ran for election. Make both parties, bless you, make both parties work to earn your vote, because that's why the first question was, how do you feel about it? This district can be won or lost by the no parties and independents. And I genuinely believe that these no parties and independents, they are there like I was, because I will go either way, but you have to show me that you deserve it. Make these parties push and earn your vote. Make them show up at your farm. Make them show up at your town hall. Make them set up a table when they got $6 million and nothing but money to do it. And when they don't show up to do a debate, what makes you think that they will show up for you whenever they didn't show up? And they never came to your house. They never set up a table. They completely walked past you and ignored you. Just like they walked past you and ignored you at the forum, they will do the exact same thing when they get into Congress, and you'll never see them again except for when it's election time.
It is a proven fact. Aside from the state party endorsing you, has there been any other entity that is involved in politics or in elections that have maybe reached out to try to help or to aid your campaign?
I've gotten the endorsement from the Forum for Equality, which is LGBTQ and queer rights. We've gotten the Courage candidate for the impeachment caucus. This is a group of people that are specifically pushing to endorse candidates who are trying to hold the administration accountable. The STFU PAC, which you would think is shut the fuck up, but it's not. Stop the Fascist Uprising PAC.
I love it.
Right? So I've gotten a lot of groups that have jumped in and are wanting to, and I'll say this about there might be a little bit of issues within state parties, et cetera, and organizations, but the people and the members within that PAC or that party have been the most beneficial. They are the ones that have called and been like, hey, do you need help with data? Hey, do you need help with volunteers? Hey, do you need help with this? I can get you over to printing, It's been... We might have work to do organizationally. We definitely have work to do organizationally, but individually, it has been very inspiring to see the amount of people, because as somebody who's kind of been in this independent sphere for a good little while and kind of been on my own, just me ranting in my car, me driving with a German Shepherd in the front seat, it's been very inspiring to come across volunteers, and people working on my team or working on my team for free, because I don't have the money for it. I'm not raising money like that. I am literally, it's all people who are just dedicated to the mission and want to see this go forward.
But isn't that at its core what it's supposed to be?
It should be. That's what it really should be, is people, and that in and of itself has been very motivating. It's one of the reasons why I haven't given up and I haven't slept, and my voice sounds even hoarser than it normally does, because it is a nice raspy. Yeah, I'll give everything I have.
Fighter voice. That's what we'll call it. See, Brandy.
Yeah.
See, it's not hoarse. It's just it's
very distinctive. I'll tell you that, because there are people who even saw me yesterday at my daughter's competition. They were like, "I saw you and you look like that teacher lady, but it wasn't until you opened your mouth that I was like, that's definitely her, because she's like, you have a very distinctive voice. And I'm like, listen, it's fine. I guess that's that kind of but I'll give, and I told this to my daughter, we'll give everything we got but up. And I don't care what they throw, that which they cannot find, they will manufacture. And at this point, I don't even care, because y'all don't care. And you showed me that you don't care. And I'm loyal. And when my brother said you don't push loyal people, exactly. So here we are. I'm going to ride this out until the very end. And we're going to see who the people choose. And I don't feel like this district, Louisiana in general, I feel like they've seen enough. All I need to do is find a way to get to their doorstep.
When you have the rare quiet moments while you've been on this campaign, and you visualize victory, because if you're running, I know you're not sitting around saying if all the time. You're in your head saying win. Mm-hmm. WHEN. Well, WIN as well, but WHEN. You're saying win. This is over with, and we've claimed victory, and we're on to the next. And then after November, you're Congresswoman Garcia. In those quiet moments that you've played that in your head, what do you think when you're coming out of that? Like, what does that look like?
I envision me pulling up like Huey Long did and putting my feet up on the chair and lighting a cigar once I get in on day one. Like, you're not going to be able to tell me a dang thing, because by the time we get there, it's been relatively quiet, and for those, like, I do recommend going to watch the forum for nothing else but this. You will see the energy amongst the Democratic candidates, and we're all like one big happy family as we're sitting here talking. Meanwhile, the energy on the Republican side was palpable. There was shade being thrown against one another. You heard, I'm not a career politician, like 12 times from some people. For myself, this is just right now going through the primary. Post-primary, I know all of that energy is going to be directed towards whoever they choose.
Right.
Which, if it's me, things are going to get spicy. There's no shortage of things to pull up, whether on me, on my family, decisions, videos I've done. So by the time we get to November, it will be a spicy summer into the fall. Which means that when we get to November, it's November 4th, and I've now won, I will have known that the entire district, Louisiana, probably the country, will have seen everything there is to know about Lindsay Rubia Garcia, and District 5 still sent me. And that tells somebody like me, don't turn down at all, because they know all of that, and they sent you as the teacher with an assignment. Go handle that. They will have given me the license to go do what I need to do in order to bring the resources, in order to bring the funding, in order to fight for them the way that they know that I'm capable of, because I've demonstrated over the last decade, I will give everything but up. I will risk my life. I will risk my liberty. I will risk my livelihood. Because I, as somebody who suffered with mental health illness, even to get to this point, I never expected to live this long. I never expected to be a mom and to have kids. So I genuinely believe that I am here, and I was given all of these life experiences. When you stared into darkness like that, there's not a whole bunch of things that I'm afraid of at this point. So you better send whatever you got. And I believe that there's something divinely protecting in that I've been given so many privileges to be here at this point, that you better come with everything that you got, because I'm coming with everything I got, and you're going to have to go really, really hard. And if the people of District 5 send me to Congress knowing all that, they don't, and I don't think that they care. It's not that they won't be disappointed or feel some type of way about things that may not come out, whatever. But I think in this current time, that's why I ran. Because none of those things, it's in the grander scheme of it, they don't want perfect people. They want real people. They want real people with a track record. And yeah, I'm a little bit thrown off, but you kind of have to be a little bit thrown off in these times to want to even be in this space. And I feel like even that is a part of that. Like, you could say I'm crazy, but I'm not wrong, though. Like, show me where the lie is. Well, if they send me, I feel like the queen fish is here, and I don't mind certain people eating more, but there shouldn't be some people sitting at the table starving, and I'm not willing to do that. Like, I'm the bully's bully has now arrived.
Well, crazy and genius, I believe, are one and the same because
Genius, I don't know about that.
Well, let me elaborate.
Okay.
Because geniuses are branded that because they've done something extraordinary, correct? They've done something that maybe someone else didn't do. They cracked some type of code, right? And they were crazy enough to believe that they could. So a genius and crazy are one and the same.
I get what you're saying.
So you have to be crazy enough to believe that it will actually work.
I would love nothing more, because at that point, all the doubts that I might have and things like that, the fears that I might have, the reservations and all that type of stuff, if there were anything left by November 4th, that would go just completely out the window, because my district knows who I am, and they sent me on a mission and with an assignment, and there isn't a thing that I could do. I take loyalty so deeply. That's why I'm so passionate about those things, that I would take it personal for myself if I let them down. I felt that way. My ex-husband used to tell me about that when I was in the classroom. Like, why do you feel like, why are you sitting here crying because, they didn't do well on state tests? I'm like, because I failed them. Like, I could have done more. I should have done more, and those types of things. But I take it so personally. Like, even the Hard Rock family, I'm still the only one that ended up in handcuffs, and I haven't done my documentary in order to bring the true full picture about that. And I told them, I was like, I can't even do it right now, given the current setup and the way things are. Like, there's so much that I feel like I have to do. But the one thing about me is that I make promises and I keep them. Law school is a testament to that. When I tried to go to law school the first time and I failed in front of millions, which was not fun, but I kept on going. But it made sure that failure made me present for the Hard Rock and those men and their families. That failure is what put me on the front lines to travel 30,000 miles, which is what taught me not just who, but what it is that I'm really fighting for. And I can't say that I would be the same advocate that I am now had it not been for those two experiences that I had. So it's almost like delayed but not denied type thing, that you still had so much that you still had to learn and experience first so that you had a better understanding of going. I thought that going and running for office would always be there, but because of my history and because of the way that I am and all that type of stuff, I felt like that it was so far beyond the reach for somebody like me. Even though Donald Trump was president, the first time go around and all that, I still felt like we weren't ready for somebody like me. But like I said to the Louisiana legislature last week, if I'm here right now, it's because y'all have ignored everybody else. Every other reasonable person, you've already ignored. You've ignored the logic and reason, the appeals to humor, the appeals to your better interest. I sat there and watched this woman cry before you and begging you to see past her color, and you ignored her as well. Like, so by the time we get to this point in life, like, if I'm the one standing here now, if I'm the one running, y'all have ignored everybody else with logic and reason, and now you're stuck with me.
Well, I definitely think that the ground is kind of shifting underneath everyone's feet, and I think that it's time to kind of pay attention to that.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that's a good place to lead the conversation.
That was really dope. I appreciate this. This is dope. I like it. I like the tabletop.
So, Lindsay, Rubia.
There you go. Listen.
Garcia, we wish you nothing but success. Love your fighting spirit. Continue, keep going.
I am the problem. It's me. Maybe the solution too.
Well, as I said earlier, you, I believe, are the good anomaly, and I think that the code is about to be cracked.
We definitely about to find out. I'm excited for it too.
We'll see. So, appreciate everybody for tuning in. Remember, you're either at the table or you're on the menu.
Facts.
And if it's a certain table, Rubia gonna turn it over.
Live it. Might as well.
Catch y'all later. Peace.